Get ready, everyone, and you just might survive. Ruben and Jason are here with their X-Men deep dive. Going through all the X-books is their mission, so get ready for the Learned Edition. Things are getting weird in here. Ruben hopes another sword book gets announced this year. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind.
Welcome, all you weirdos, creepy little blonde kids, and everyone who thinks an extra couple arms growing out of your back might be worth a little radiation sickness. It is time to receive your 172nd Weird Dose of X, the mutant member of your Weird Science podcast family. I am your Alpha Flight loving host, Jason, broadcasting to you as always from the Wrong Turn studio perched high atop stately Weird Science Manor. And joining me is a man who, this week at least, will not be playing poker with Chauncey Billups. It's my pal Ruben. Hey Ruben, how the heck are you?
Doing well. It's been a decent week of comics, and that's always got me in a better mood than I would ordinarily be.
Yeah, it was great. You know, we get those review copies, and I'll pick one and I'll read it and go, oh, that was pretty good. And then that'll go to the next one. Oh, that's pretty good too. And somehow we kind of went 4 for 4 on the printed books this week. They're all, more than decent.
Yeah, it's actually made me think like these tie-ins actually have a purpose and that it's not just a cash grab. So it's great.
Makes me a little nervous for next week. Maybe we'll have to, pay back all this goodwill we've stored up. But hey, that's next week's problem. This week we're all in a good mood. This week we're feeling fine. Also, I got my tea shipment in from China this week, so that's nice. My wife didn't see it come in. I was able to sneak it into the house, so she does not know about my late night. It wasn't a drunken impulse purchase, but it was an impulse purchase. So I got enough tea to last me like another year in case the tariffs hit. So
she doesn't know that you're hanging out with the lumber slut.
No, she does not know about the lumber slut, which is the name of a certain kind of tea that I sampled yesterday. It was actually quite good. It's a aged, not that aged, but it's called a pu'er. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. A certain style of Chinese tea. And this blend was made to emphasize like the forest wood, petrichor, kind of like a rainy forest day kind of a flavor. It's really good. So 2 thumbs up for the lumber slut. We are not sponsored by the White 2 Tea Company, but hey, if they want to send me free stuff, hit me up. Stuff that wasn't quite free, but we enjoyed it anyway, were the books this week. And how about that Infinity comic, which is free with your paid subscription to Marvel Unlimited? Hey, that's called a segue. So let's push the ding sound and move on to Astonishing X-Men Infinity comic number 42 of 42, my favorite number. That Ye Be Not Judged, part 4 of 4. Written by Tim Seeley Wicks with Alex Packnadell, art by Philip Sevi, colors by Michael Bartolo, and letters by Clayton Coles. Well, Ruben, we've been so positive about the other things going on this week. This one, it wraps up exactly how you might expect, right? There's no twists. There's no, here's a thing you didn't see coming. There's no big ideas. We're just landed the plane.
Yeah.
You feel kind of the same way?
Yeah, this is kind of forgettable.
Yeah. Don't know if this was always the plan to finish at 42 or if Packnadell and Seeley were told, I don't know, a month earlier or something, but they just kind of do the obvious thing. So we're still at the site of Morphling's trial for attempting to nuke the entire world. We still have an inside fight involving Morphling, Husk, and an anti-mutant security guard. And we still have that outside fight involving Banshee, Skin, the Executioner, and several now hideously deformed Executioner flat scanner minions. So inside, we've got Morphling in his evil changeling form with the funny hat. He's beating the crap out of that security guard. That's the one who kind of looks like Beta Ray Bill. Husk wants to stop Morphling from killing the dude, so she husks herself one last time to make herself look like Morph. Now, that is the goofy, pale white, cue ball-headed version of Morph. Seeing himself like that helps Morphling overcome the voice of Cassandra Nova in his head, so he's now just lovable Morph once again. Going outside, the executioner, that is Carl Denty, he's in a moment of indecision. He hates the crap out of mutants and really wants to start a war with them, but he's realizing that this whole current push to start a war was pushed by a mutant inside his head named Cassandra Nova. So, which way to go? He eventually decides to call this war off. Says, yeah, we will have our anti-mutant war, but, later. Ruben, if you were a minion of his who just hideously transformed yourself for this war and didn't know if there's any way of going back, how would you feel about Carl Denty changing his frickin' mind?
Yeah, I mean, this part was plausible. They get angry and they basically think that he's being influenced by one of the X-Men.
Yeah, they think that Banshee is doing some mojo on him. They don't know that it's Cassandra Nova in his head pushing him the other way. So, So yeah, they don't know what the hell's going on. They know this guy who just had them uproot their entire lives and physically change themselves into monsters now says, like Emily Lotella on Saturday Night Live, never mind. So they start trying to beat him up. Banshee can't help because he's, quote, out of screams. This is just like, Green Lantern, his ring always fails just when it's plot convenient. And isn't this a dude who can fly via continuously screaming? So yeah. That was just way too convenient. Just like Husk's very last ability to husk for the day, she got to use up on turning into to morph.
Yeah.
All these convenient power moments.
I don't know Husk well enough to know if there's a limited number of times she can switch, but I was just like, we haven't seen that in the 42 chapters before this.
Yeah. She mentions it. Oh, I can't usually husk this many times in a row, and one more. Can I do it? Yes. Yes, you can.
The Banshee's problem was he needed some lumber slut. He just had a sore throat, just a little lozenge there.
You're really pushing for that sponsorship, Ruben, and I appreciate you for it.
Yeah.
Thank you. So how are we going to stop these hideous monsters from beating up that other hideous monster? And do we really want to? But I guess we do. Morphling and the Husk show up to help because they, broke away from beating up that security guard inside. And so does damn near the entire rest of the old Generation X team, including characters we've seen in this volume like Mondo and characters I don't think we have like Chamber, Sync, Jubilee. And of course, they're all brought here by that walking plot device we call Gateway. So the whole gang's in town. They win the fight, rescue Denty from his own minions. And I don't know, did they lock everybody up? Did they send them off to Savage World, Savage Land? Who the hell knows? All of the good guys of Generation X, they go back to Castle Banshee for a pizza party, because Irish pizza, that's got to be the best in the world, right? The pizza party and a group high five. Big ol' the end.
Yes.
And it's family, Ruben. It's all about family.
Yeah, I was going to say, you missed the very important, ubiquitous, we're not a team, we're family.
Mm-hmm. So it's wrapped up in kind of the most cliche, obvious way possible. And, cliches are cliches for a reason, but sometimes they're just kind of boring. And I thought this final arc of the Astonishing X-Men Infinity comic was kind of dull.
Yeah. I also laugh about these sort of, this whole team is all put together. I'm like, this is the most we've ever seen in this entire Infinity comic. I don't know if they were working towards getting Gen X back together, but just to have them all suddenly back together, I was like, really? And then also I laughed at the idea of we're definitely not seeing Gen X as a full team. So after this moment, they just go back to not being part of a team.
Yeah. It was nice to see Sync. We haven't seen him in a little bit. He didn't get any lines at all, as far as I could tell, or actually do anything, but he was there. So that's nice. So I guess the Infinity Comic's going away for a while, which, hey, Ruben, that makes your life and my life a little easier, because timing-wise, the Infinity Comic is what always comes out the morning right before we record. So it's, that's an extra little task I have to do to get ready for it. But, we'll be plenty busy with the Age of Revelation for the next, I think, 10 weeks. So don't worry, listeners. We will not be running short of material, but I'm going to give this final arc of the Infinity Comic, I'm feeling positive, so let's give it a 5.5 out of 10.
Yeah, you're giving it too much. I'm going to give it a 4 because I think it was just a bunch of trash to get off the book.
It had the occasional interesting art choice. It was nice to see the characters. Yeah, it wasn't great. It was definitely skippable, and it does make the whole volume feel less than it could have been because it doesn't really build up to them. I guess that's what the Infinity Comic is, right? They're just trying to give people something kind of diverting to read every week. And on that low level, that low bar, it gets over. Okay, ready to move on? We'll raise the bar as we go into X-Men Book of Revelation number 1 of 3. Written by Jed MacKay, art by Netho Diaz, we like both those guys, inks by Sean Parsons, we like him as well, colors by Fair Cervantes Suho, sure, why not? And our old buddy Clayton Coles on the letters. I'm feeling positive today, moving. Good mood. This is the book that takes us inside Dougie's inner circle, lets us see them all fighting for power and influence and prestige, and it introduces a character who may ultimately be very important to how the story ends. So, folks, if you're following the event, Book of Revelation is probably a title you need to be picking up. And the good news is, it's also kind of a fun read. I'm going to talk about the art first, because why not? The paneling is done in an unusual way. We have some fairly thick white gutters laid out in a grid pattern, almost like you're looking through, horizontal and vertical bars, set up in a way that leaves slivers of panels along the edges. I couldn't think of the name of the artist I'd seen doing something like this before. Over in the Slack, it was Yea, who reminded me that Mike Diodato uses this technique, including in a recent Flash run. So if you like that kind of look, or if you just like different paneling styles in general, check this out. It doesn't get in the way of the story at all. It's kind of eye-catching. And Netho Diaz hasn't used this before in, the X-Men title that he's been sometimes doing the art on. But I'm guessing there he just is going to follow the basic style laid out by Ryan Stegman and doesn't want to do anything too unusual to kind of rock the boat. You found the art interesting as well, or not so much?
I'm sort of like Jim in the sense that I don't really notice the art unless it's just really bad. So I'm looking at this now for the first time and saying, oh, yeah, I guess it is a little bit different. But I didn't even notice the boxes kind of extending in that way. It is kind of interesting.
Yeah, not at the very beginning, but like when we get 4 or 5 pages in. It's a little different. He does a lot of where a character inside one panel, like their outstretched arm or head, will kind of poke out of the box into the neighboring panel. Kind of a cool look. I'm trying to notice the art more because naturally, Ruben, I would, be just like you and say, oh, I'll just kind of read the story and the art is just kind of getting the story to me. But I'm trying to be more of an art guy, but by nature I am definitely more of a writer plot guy.
What I noticed more than the panel layout itself is just within the panels, the characters are pretty well detailed and the backgrounds are pretty robust. I definitely picked up on that. I thought, okay, this is a well-drawn comic.
Yeah, Netho Diaz, we've liked a lot of his work. I think all the work of his that we've seen we've really liked. He gets to create some new characters, draw some old characters and some, this new world. Even Cora of the Burning Heart looks really cool. You get to see that flaming abdomen, thorax, chest area. She looks like a real badass. We have this new character, this little girl we're going to talk about, also looks good. Yeah, awesome art, for sure. But let's get into the actual plot. This issue introduces a new character, that young blue-skinned mutant girl named Albecca Voss. She's one of those mutants with the power to enhance other mutant abilities, so she's the new chorister brought in by Dougie to replace Topaz. And Topaz is, of course, the character we saw murdered to death by Glob in the Overture. We're in Philadelphia, and the place looks thoroughly Krakoaized. Right? There's plants and vines crowding the streets, covering up entire buildings. Probably green bell peppers free for the taking on every street corner, so keeping the locals happy. Mm-hmm. Doug makes a speech to the populace, introducing Albecca as his new chorister. And this speech also sounds like it came right off of Krakoa. Like Magneto, you can feel the tones like Magneto might be declaring things here. Very grand, very ceremonial, calling out the X-Men as enemies of mutant kind. And this is immediately contrasted with how Dougie talks to Albecca herself, now sounding much more like the good old friendly, approachable Dougie we know and love. He even tells Albecca that he speaks to the crowds like that because that's what they expect. And now Dougie is the world authority on the power of words, so it really works for me that he'd have this kind of insight and that he would use this to make a connection between him and Albecca. Good stuff.
I'm sort of curious, what's the ruse, or is it all just a ruse, right? I don't even know if he's the good-natured Doug, or if he's just so skilled at language and connection that he's able to pretend to be this caring, considerate character.
Big picture wise, that's still what I'm missing, is how did Doug get to this point? What is he really up to? We know there's going to be a reveal sometime on what he's up to, the thing that Bay the Blood Moon found out that that she transmitted up to Apocalypse on Mars. So we know there's a reveal waiting for us, but I really want that to make sense because Dougie is not acting how he was back in X-Men 22 or whatever it was, when he seemed very idealistic and very much not wanting to overdo his powers and influence on the world. And now, here we are. So that definitely has to be something that Jed MacKay sells to me for me to say this is a successful event. All the little pieces so far are pretty good, but that big picture needs to get across. So also in this scene, we have Fabian Cortez. Now, Ruben, over the first 171 episodes or so of this podcast, I've been known to say some pretty positive things about Mr. Cortez. He started off as a real jerk in those Cy Spurrier, Krakoa Nightcrawler books, but he seemed to be learning his lesson there. Early on and from the ashes, he was a full-on humanitarian, using his mutant gift to heal poor, sick Madripoorian kids, and for his trouble, he got beaten up by Mystique, used by her, left in the trunk of a car, arrested by S.H.I.E.L.D. So I was feeling pretty bad for the guy. But it turns out you don't have to hand it to him. He's not turning over that much of a new leaf, at least not in this 10 years forward wacky world. So I was ready to kind of root for him some more, but in this book, he's just a real jerk, isn't he?
Yeah, when I saw this characterization of him, I laughed. I thought you've been giving him way too much rope, right? Like,
yeah.
He has not learned any lessons.
So for now, we'll just say that he's being kind of mean towards young Elbecca. He teases her about a ghost that's rumored to whisper to people who sleep in Revelation headquarters. And we cut to that night, and we see Elbecca in bed, scared, and she does actually hear that ghost calling to her. It wasn't just Fabian, being a jerk. The ghost asks Elbecca for help and warns Elbecca herself that she is in danger. So we knew that the Ghost of Philadelphia was going to be a thing. We talked about it when we saw solicits and covers. So this is the first time we're actually getting tangible on-panel evidence of that ghost. Go on to the next morning, which is Elbecca's first full day of work. Some cool stuff happens here. First, she has that chat with Cora of the Burning Heart. She thinks that, Fabian Cortez, he's a jerk, but maybe this nice lady will be nice to me. Not so much. Cora is no friend of Fabian Cortez, but she is of Arakko. She's not going to coddle some weak, scared little child. She thinks that Elbecca better pull herself up by her bootstraps, get with the program, make herself useful, otherwise, she might as well die. Very Arakko. Were you happy to see Cora here? Did you think that her characterization makes sense in this new setting?
Yeah, I was happy to see that the Iraqi still are Iraqi in general.
Oh, yeah. Who's she the son of, or the daughter of? She's related to a bunch of those other Iraqi mutants. I forget how that family tree works.
Yeah, I don't recall either.
I don't recall that. I'll have to look that up. But yeah, she's one of the prominent Arakko mutants. And speaking of prominent Arakko mutants, Dougie is going to receive a visitor, an ambassador from Apocalypse from Arakko. I like this. Another continuity connection between the books, right? Bay, the Blood Moon, sent that message up to Mars, and this is how Apocalypse is reacting to that. Turns out that the ambassador is Death. That's Apocalypse's own kid, one of the original Horsemen, the one who looks like the Egyptian god Anubis. Doug's not impressed. Death delivers Apocalypse's message. The Big A says that Doug has failed in his mission, squandered his inheritance. He demands that Doug give up the Revelation territories and present himself to Apocalypse on Arakko for judgment. So what does Dougie say to this, given this order from Big Blue Guy?
Yeah, he basically just says no after he humbles Death by making him kneel to him.
Oh, yeah, he does. He goes full on.
Kneel before Zod!
Yeah, he loses his cool here, which is kind of funny because he told his choristers ahead of time, hey, don't let this guy get under your skin. Don't let him provoke you. And then Dougie loses his cool. It's when Death kind of brings up, oh, by the way, we're sorry that your wife is dead, which was definitely in there on purpose to poke at him. Wasn't really, being nice. Wasn't really being, oh, sorry about that. It was, hey, your wife died, and they know that the wife died sending a message to Apocalypse. So yeah, Doug takes the bait. Forces Death to kneel in front of him, forces him to go back to Mars, and that's how that scene wraps up. I'm curious. Go ahead.
I did like the line where Doug talks about what an inheritance is, and they're saying you squandered your inheritance. He's like, well, if there's an inheritance, it means that, Apocalypse essentially abdicated his role on Earth.
Yeah, almost a little King Lear-esque, right? Like King Lear, the king gives up the power, gives up the throne, but then still kind of wants to have that option to take it back, which Doug says, yeah, that's not how this works, old man. Pretty neat. I am curious to see now the ball's back in Apocalypse's court. It's clearly still too early for him to come in and be the Deus Ex Machina to end things, but he could very well be part of whatever the end game of this whole story is.
I do have to say, I like the look of Death, and they really need to have him kick some ass somewhere, because at this point, he just shows up, he looks cool and imposing, and he gets his butt kicked by everybody.
I always remember him in that scene in the X of Swords event early in Krakoa, where at the it was like a halftime party or like a kickoff party for the big event, and he and Storm had a really cool scene together where they were like dancing and flirting with each other. It's pretty neat. Okay, one final scene in this book taking place around sunset that same day. Elbecca's kind of moping on the roof of the headquarters, and then Fabian Cortez shows up to chat. At first, it seems, I'm thinking, okay, he's gonna, let the mask slip a little bit, say, okay, I'm gonna help out my new co-high, my new little junior co-worker here.
Yeah.
Cortez, he's been here before. He knows about being close to power, being used by power, but not really having your own power or discretion.
Oh, yeah. He's always the hype man for some powerful mutant.
Yeah. Often it's been Magneto, and now it's Doug. So
he did exactly what I predicted he would do. Like, when I saw the scene, I was like, get off the edge. Hurry, don't sit on the edge.
Yeah, that makes me nervous to begin with. I'm not that big a fan of heights in the best of times, but, Age of Apocalypse, Fabian Cortez walking up behind me, I'm moving away from the edge. So, yeah, he kind of points out that I don't have anything personally against you, kid, but you seem like you might be a threat to me being first among equals. I was the first of Doug's choristers, so if I have to serve this guy, I want to at least be the number one servant. And he tosses her off the top of the building. On the way down, Elbecca hears the ghost again. Kind of a long fall. I don't want to do the physics calculations on this, but maybe it's a super tall building.
Yeah.
The ghost says, hey, Elbecca, I can save you. I can help you out, but you have to use your power-enhancing ability on me. So Elbecca does. The ghost is now more physical and stronger and grabs her and saves her. And Ruben, who does this ghost turn out to be?
Kate Pride.
It is Kate, or that's Kitty Pride to you and me. That's what I call her anyway.
Yeah, she goes by Kitty herself in this case. Interesting.
Yes, she does call herself Kitty Pride. Says, hey, Elbecca, my name's Kitty Pride, and you're going to be okay. Now, I think we had guessed at one point that the ghost might be Kitty. I think we threw out like a dozen guesses, but, we'll take credit for the one that turned out to be correct. And how Kitty got in this condition, we don't know. Any guesses, any speculation how she's a ghost now?
I'm going to guess Revelation told her to become incorporeal or something like that.
Could be that. It could be.
Or it could be the X-Virus.
The X-Virus.
We've heard that it mutates you a bit, yeah.
Or they might just say this is just the natural evolution of her power, right? Her power has always been to become incorporeal. So maybe just as it advances, like Beast got the secondary mutation with the blue skin and the fur. So maybe as she advances and gets older, maybe this is just what's going to happen to her. So I thought this was a really good story. Elbecca herself is not the most fleshed out character. She's like your cookie cutter, wide-eyed kid thrown into a situation. But she serves really well as a focus for everything going on around her. It was fun to see Dougie lose his cool there, because he's always been this kind of implacable, I'm in charge and I have a plan kind of guy, so it's nice to see that mask slip. Still need to know what the secret is, what he's really trying to get. But yeah, I think this was a good-looking comic. I think that final splash page of Ghost Kitty looking slightly less ghosty is really awesome. The angle and the movement there is great. The facial expressions are really telling the story. So I am a little sad to see Fabian Cortez turn back into a child murderer, but I can't say that, this is not in his character, because it clearly is. And to see him backslide in a timeline like this, not surprising. So I'm going to give this chapter of Book of Revelation, Chapter 1, an 8.5 out of 10. Very solid entry in this event story. It makes me want to see more. How about you?
Yeah, I liked it. I'm in that range. I'm just going to say 8, but I was quite pleased with this. All the McKay stories have been really good. Like, it's very clear that he has a story to tell with this.
He has
Age
a
of Revelation.
plan, and we won't know if it's great until things pay off. But so far, he certainly seems to, be telling the story he wants to tell. And the other things around it, some of them are good, some of them are not so good. But nothing's getting in the way of him telling this Doug story, this Doug and Cyclops, and this, that main thrust of what we've been reading. So definitely want to read more of that.
Yeah, what I'm most impressed by is really that this doesn't feel like just a really cheap Age of Apocalypse copy and paste. The way that this was like framed, it really sounded like this event kind of got spun up as a solution to that other Age of Apocalypse story not really being ready in time. And so I was expecting this to be so poorly done.
It was the Hush writer guy, I forget his name. Yeah, he was supposed to have the X-Men of Apocalypse was supposed to be the main celebration of this, the 30-year anniversary of Age of Apocalypse, and that was looking like it might be late. So that's when somehow, because a 4-issue miniseries might be late, they came up with a 40-issue, 50-issue giant crossover story. But hey, so far so good. Okay, let's move on to our next book. Not quite so central to the main plot, probably, but still pretty interesting. This is Omega Kids, number 1 of 3, written by Tony Fleece, art by Andres Genolet, colors by Fer Cervantes Sujo, and letters by Travis Lanham. So, Ruben, how about you tell us what Quentin Quire is up to these days?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to follow the order of the storyline from the book for a change.
Just to mix things up, sure.
Just to mix things up, yeah. But also because the way it's presented, it's sort of a mystery within a mystery. At the end of this, I decided like this is basically just Inception in comic book form, but it's still a pretty good story. So it starts out with this family of mutants living in the Revelation territories and showing that not every single family of mutants is particularly happy with the way things are going. And this family in particular has issues because it looks like Doug has babbled their child. I'm kind of curious what he did to deserve that, to get, Doug's attention. But in any event, the mom and dad are, trying to raise this kid that doesn't have the ability to communicate, which is tough. And it looks like the mother has been radicalized because of this. And so she is participating in this decentralized plan to assassinate Revelation.
Yeah, it's interesting, though, because she doesn't even know at first what the plan is. We don't know how this group got put together, but it's very cool the way they explain that every person involved only knows the tiniest fraction of the plan because there's psychics everywhere. And if anybody actually has a full plan, they'll definitely get caught.
Yeah, so it sounds like you basically know one person that's part of the group and they tell you one thing, right? You go here. And then I guess when you get there, you get more information if you happen to be the key person involved. So her husband tries to talk her out of it, saying, hey, this isn't safe. Like, it's just going to be really a problem for us. But she's like, you can't stop me. So we kind of follow her and she meets up with this agent that like gives her a high-powered sniper rifle and tells her where to go. And so she gets set up to take a shot at Revelation because he's going to be giving his speech. I kind of was thinking like it doesn't exactly map over, but I was wondering if this was the scene that we saw in World of Revelation.
I didn't figure out exactly what it was, but it's the conversation between Doug and Psylocke where they figure out that someone is leaking information to the X-Men.
Okay. So that'd be a little bit earlier. In any event, so she lines up, gets ready to take a shot at Revelation, and then just kind of has a brain aneurysm. And so we pan out and find out that what was happening was actually she wasn't really going to Doug really wasn't, at any real risk. The psychic network that Quentin allegedly is controlling had put her in some sort of kind of like a mastermind fantasy world.
She had never physically left. It looks like her own backyard.
Yeah.
She was always there.
So they let her kind of live out this experience that, that she had been kind of part of. But they were really controlling the space that she was in. And once she chose to take a shot at Doug, she literally
pulled the trigger. Right. That's when she was judged as guilty and they just cut off her breathing and killed her there in front of her actual husband.
Yep. And so then it pans out and we see, okay, this is the status quo, right? So Quentin is like the ultimate spy master for this nation. And he's got a bunch of kid psychics working for him. And together they root out any sort of dissidents or threats to Revelation, and if they make a choice to actually commit a crime, then he kills them. And I kind of laugh at like the morality of this, where he's like, well, it's not bad because they we let them actually do the bad before we execute them.
Right. He very much thinks of himself as having a strict moral code. He's kind of seeing himself as Charles Xavier, but also he thinks he's much, much better than Charles ever was to him and his group of kids. So he has this little crew, and I'm sure we'll talk about these kids eventually in a little more detail. They're kind of cool kids. And he says one of the key rules is we only execute guilty people. We make sure they're guilty. Absolutely 100%. And if they're 100% guilty, we execute them, but we make fully sure, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, and in a way, they're choosing to kill themselves, right?
I guess.
They
now,
know
they
know the penalty for the crime.
Interesting little bits in this vision, now that we know it's a vision. Those 4 kids who are his elite team, his honors class here, we see them in the vision kind of running around on bikes, and they're carrying what I think is the rifle that the lady ends up picking up. I'm not sure. Are these kids inside the vision? Are we seeing them acting on their own, or does Doug know they're doing this? Which we'll see later on. They have some complicated things happening. I'm not really sure what they're doing running around inside the vision. Do you know? Am I interpreting this more complicatedly than it needs to?
Yeah, I think you are. I think they're just kind of in there because we learned that they were, the reference points for like giving her the vision.
Okay. We also see a little glitch in the vision. It looks almost like something out of an Atari 2600 game, like a little pixelated little blob going around. And Doug yells at them for that, saying, hey, that's a little glitch in the vision. And if our suspect knows they're in a vision, then what they do, we can't really hold against them so much. And we can't prove they're guilty unless they think they're in absolute reality. So he gives them a hard time about that. And it turns out this glitch is also a little hint of things going on under the surface. It's one of those books that once you finish it, you kind of have to go back to the beginning and read it again and kind of see all the little bits and what they really mean in light of what we learn later, which is one of my favorite kinds of comic books to read.
Yeah. I really did like the little moral quandary point, which is, he says, well, if they see the glitch, then subconsciously they're just going to maybe think that they're not in actual reality, and whatever they choose to do, they might be influenced by that situation, right? Because it's like if you're in a dream, you do lots of crazy stuff that you wouldn't necessarily do.
Yeah.
Especially once you realize you're in a dream.
I dreamed the other night that it was right after Star Wars, the movie, came out, and I was working for a company that was making knockoff Star Wars products. It seemed very complicated at the time. That's right. In my dream, I was violating intellectual property, but it doesn't count because it was only the dream, so you can't execute me for it, even if you are Disney. So let's talk about this team of kids, I guess.
Sure. Yep. So this is 4 kids. We've got Curtis Terrell Jr. Seems to be the weakest one, and he doesn't talk.
He
only
also
psychically.
Seems to maybe be in charge of like the visuals of the vision. At least it turns out that the glitch he takes the blame for. So maybe he's the one making the holodeck danger room situation going on here.
And they say it's interesting. These kids allegedly all have powers below Quentin's powers, right? Because we've been told he's an Omega level telepath,
right?
And he's flagged as a beta level psychic, and we get like a gamma level empath. That's Nell Widows, and then we have Isla Boskert.
Sure.
Who's I guess they call her the alpha of the Omegas, but I assume she's still.
It's confusing because they are the Omega kids because, they're with Kid Omega, but they're not Omega level themselves. And she is the alpha of these Omega kids, like she's their leader, but I don't know what that means about her power level. The whole alpha, beta, gamma, epsilon thing always confuses me in these comics. It always means exactly what the writer needs it to mean for that story. So I don't worry about it too much.
Yeah. And
but these are young kids.
Ayla doesn't have any eyes, so she's like, it's kind of like the speak no evil, hear no evil, see no evil thing, because she can't see and Curtis can't speak. I'm wondering if one of them's deaf. But
and also she makes me think of Destiny as well, because it says that she has powerful psychic visions and she has no eyes. For me, that's definitely a Destiny kind of a nod.
And then the last one is Bailey Quinn, who she's the youngest too, right? She's only 8.
So the others are all 14, 15, 16. Bailey is 8. It says uncharted psychic abilities, unreliable clairvoyance, lethal psionic blades, and she is the creepiest little kid we've seen in comics in some time. She is precocious. She speaks like she's, a full-on adult, and she just wants to kill people.
Yeah,
Very
she
creepy.
seems to be the executioner of the team and maybe enjoys it too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, after Quentin dresses them down for failing to give the perfect illusion, I think Curtis says, well, sorry, I was hungry. I kind of got screwed up. So he's like, okay, let me go make you a sandwich. And
I want to talk about the speech a little bit because you can tell that Quentin is really thinking that he's just the best team leader ever here, that he's being tough but fair, a loving but firm leader, and these kids listen to him and respect him, and that he's really doing so much better than Charles Xavier ever did. And he's that smug look or feeling comes across, and he's looking like the world's ultimate hipster here, right? He's got the very specific, facial hair and hairstyle and these wacky goggles, and that he only listens to music on vinyl, and that he definitely drinks pour over coffee and rides a fixed gear bike. He is just 1,000% that guy. And yeah, that is who Quentin could be in this world. He's a full-on true believer of Doug's mission. He thinks that mutants need to be protected, and this is his job to do it. And it also blends in with other stories about spy masters in the world and who think that they definitely need to do what needs to be done for the bigger picture, for the larger vision. And I think it's a nice twist on Kid Omega's character that absolutely fits in with what we've seen him before.
Yeah, and I went back and refreshed my memory on his history, and this is very much in line with what he's always been. So he was, even when he was very first introduced, he was kind of a mutant supremacist in a way, right? He was a young kid that attended Xavier's school, but very much disagreed with the coexistence situation. He's always been here for protecting mutants.
Mm-hmm. And what was the riot? He started a riot early on, in his first arc, right? There was a group of Omega kids or something that he was, So it's definitely.
So he was attending the Xavier school, and then he got a message from what he thought were his actual parents that, hey, we had actually adopted you and you've been given up by your biological parents. And that really destabilized him.
Right.
And then in parallel with that, he had seen a newspaper article that showed, a depiction of an evil mutants, trying to take over the world. And he was like, well, F it. If that's the way the world sees mutants, let's just own it and be that. Mm-hmm. And so he organized some kids to basically kind of take over the Xavier school. And they did.
The Omega gang, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And it had to do with that kick drug that was going around at the time as well.
Yeah, exactly. That Sublime was using, or basically it introduced. But any event, and he was kind of inspired too by the death of, I always forget his name, the clothing designer guy.
Oh, yeah, the one he has some extra arms. That he does all the gowns for the gala and such.
Yeah.
Jumbo Carnation.
Yeah. So Jumbo Carnation got killed, and he was just kind of like, this peaceful coexistence thing is not working, and the humans are out there killing us, so we need to become militant.
Mm-hmm. So you can definitely see him falling back into that mode of thinking in this new timeline.
Yeah. And at the time, he was originally super into Sophie Cuckoo. He was trying to impress her because she was a classmate of his, and she was not interested at all. And eventually, during that Morrison run, he kind of gets defeated by the Cuckoos and nearly killed.
He definitely has a type when it comes to girlfriends, that's for sure.
Yes. Yeah. So then, a few years later, they kind of reconstitutes his, intelligence, and for a while tries to get in line with, becoming a more traditional X-Men. He joins Wolverine's team during the Schism, and then during the Krakoa era, he is kind of joins the X-Force team under Beast to help run Black Ops missions for Krakoa. And at that time, even though Sophie had never actually been into him, he ends up in a relationship with Phoebe Cuckoo.
Right. I couldn't remember which Cuckoo it was because, again, in my head, they were all kind of the same. But it was Phoebe on Krakoa.
Yep. Until she dumps him because the other Cuckoos convince her that he's kind of a tool.
Right. So back in this book, he's going to be now the good, stern but loving leader, and going off to get some food. So make some deli sandwiches for the kids here. Maybe what do they call them in Philadelphia? They call them hoagies, probably.
Yeah,
I think
know.
Philadelphia is a hoagie town. So they probably call them that. And while he's doing that, Phoebe Cuckoo drops by. And did you notice the caption they give her when she shows up?
No, what did it say?
They call her 1/3 of the world's most powerful psychic hive mind. 1/3.
Yeah,
that's a very specific number.
Yeah, so it means that the 5 and 1 have lost 2 of their members.
Yeah, which
happens a lot in this.
That's true.
There's like tropes for the cuckoos, and like one of those tropes is like members of their hive mind get killed off.
Yeah, I mean, there's 5 of them, so it's an easy thing to do to raise the stakes is to kill one of them off because they're not that different from each other. They're not that distinguished, right? That's the whole point, is they're twin clone types. But yeah, that definitely makes me wonder what the hell happened there.
Yep. So yeah, Phoebe is, checking in on Quentin to see how he's doing. And then she kind of questions like whether he's been put up to this like spy master thing by Revelation. Because I think she thinks he's not really a guy to buy into like organized leadership, right? Mm-hmm. And he convinces her that no, it's not that I'm anti-establishment. It's that I'm anti-establishment when it's not protecting mutants. Right. And this one is protecting mutants. So I'm all in on, maintaining this status quo.
And she does a scan and assures herself that he is telling the truth, which is really about telling us, the readers, that this is Quentin actually making decisions. It's not that he's being unduly influenced. Also, we don't necessarily know they're in a romantic relationship, but she's definitely a close friend who can speak up and tell him things like, hey, maybe you're doing stuff wrong, which I don't think a lot of people are saying that to his face. Again, that's what seems to be going on here.
It's kind of framed as like, oh, they're sort of getting back together, but not really quite there yet.
He's definitely enjoying her company and, having a good time. And there, she brought over some chips and he's making the food.
Mm-hmm. But then after he gives the food to the kids, it kind of pans out again. So this is like the Inception, scene within a scene kind of thing. And it turns out that he's actually in like a super dumpy apartment. The kids are in their own little space and they meet together in their own little psychic space saying,
yeah, Phoebe's not there. The whole building we saw him in with the kids appears to not be there. This he's pouring coffee on the floor because he thinks he's pouring coffee in a cup that's not there.
Yeah, for Phoebe.
There's nasty dishes in the sink. And yeah, really makes you wonder how much of everything is fake. Because so the kids are definitely doing stuff behind his back. And that's why there was a glitch in the holodeck thing at the beginning. And they're definitely working around him. And he thinks that, oh, they love me, they respect me, I'm their leader, their sensei, and they're just totally manipulating him. We do know from other people speaking that he really is in charge of, a group of Omega kids and in charge of, he's a spy master for Revelation. So it's not totally in his mind, but we don't know how much is real, how much is in his mind, what's going on. So it's definitely left on that reveal cliffhanger going, what the hell's actually happening here?
Yeah, we don't know if there are more than just 4 Omega kids. I had gathered from the other stories that it seemed like they were all over the Revelation territories, that it wasn't just 4 of them.
I think there's a ton of Omega kids, but here he calls them his elite team, and at one point his honors class, so they're like, the top level.
So it seems like he had this organization going, and then this group didn't like being instructed by him, and they decided to put him in his own little, fantasy world so that they could execute on whatever their nefarious agenda is.
We don't really know what their agenda is. If they think he's being too nice, if they want to be against Revelation, we just don't know. Yeah. All we know is that little blonde girl is super scary. That one panel tight on her face says, let Quentin find out. I don't care. I'll just kill everyone. That's a creepy ass panel.
Yeah. Which makes me wonder, like, how strong is she, right? Because it seems to me like the other kids think we got to keep him in this fantasy world because we can't go head to head against Quentin Quire.
Right.
So, but maybe she's just a big talker and she thinks she can.
She's 8. What does she
take him?
They do point out that these kids have all grown up in the Revelation world. Like some of them are older than 10, but they would have been only little kids before everything started changing. So this is the world they've known. So they don't really have anything to compare it to. Okay, so that was a pretty good issue. What do you want to rate this thing?
Yeah, I'm going to give this one an 8.5. I was surprised by the the secret world within the secret world. And I thought there was an interesting little moral conversation, about why he's doing what he's doing. And I thought it was consistent with his characterization. So I was pretty pleased with this. These kids, they're creepy, and it's good enough for me.
Yeah, I think that Tony Fleece and the artist Andre Genoulet, which I'm probably massacring, but sorry, Andre, they do a really good job of making these 4 brand new characters real characters super quickly. So with the one boy who is nonverbal, at least not out loud. We have the creepy little blonde kid. We have the girl with no eyes, and we have the other one who has like goat legs and horns. Plus, they also their personalities also come through in just a very few panels of them arguing in their own kind of secret psychic clubhouse. We can definitely see they have different strong personalities, and to get 4 new characters to mean something in the space of 1 issue is not easy. So definitely give them credit for that. So yeah, I'm also going to go with 8.5. I think it's a really good book and doesn't seem central to the main story, but I think it's just a plain old good book. So check that out. Let's move on to Radioactive Spider-Man number 1 of 3, written by Joe Kelly, not Joe Casey, although I'm probably going to say Joe Casey, Ruben, so when I do, it's your job to correct me. Written by Joe Kelly. The art is by Kev Walker, colors by Chris Sotomayor, letters by Joe Caramagna. And Ruben, we don't usually talk about the editors on this show. We save that for the other Marvel podcast.
Save that for the X-Men podcast.
Not this podcast, the other one. But it's worth pointing out this time because the editors here are Caitlin Lindvet, Tom Groneman, and Nick Lowe. Any of those names ringing a bell to you there, Ruben? Nick Lowe in particular is the longtime Spider-Man editor. He's the one that everybody yells at online for breaking up him and MJ. So I think it's notable because this book is not coming out of the X office. It has the X office trade dress. It has the Age of Revelation logos and things on it, but it's not being supervised by, the conductor of X and all those other people. It's coming out from Nick Lowe. So I think that's interesting to note because if things look a little different over here, it might not be as coordinated as some of the other books. So what even is this book? For one thing, it's the first and so far only book we've seen in this event that is set in Marvel's kind of primary location, New York City. That's notable. And not surprisingly, given the editorial situation, it's not really tied at all to the central narrative of the event. We probably should really think of this as a what-if Spider-Man story that happens to be set in something like the Age of Revelation rather than something actually tied to the event. But if that appeals to you, I don't know, maybe you're not so much enjoying the current Amazing Spider-Man story about Spidey in space and other people on Earth pretending to be Spidey, maybe this will be for you. So, even though it's still written by Joe Kelly, this is not connected at all to that whole space nonsense. In this book, Spider-Man is Peter Parker. We had speculated, is this going to be a different Spider-Man? But nope, it's Petey. He's on Earth in New York City, and he's doing his best to continue to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, even as the whole world around him kind of goes to hell. I made an assumption when we saw the first cover of this title. I think I said that, the X-Virus either kills you or turns you to mutant. And here I am looking at a Spider-Man who has 4 extra mini limbs grown out of his back on this cover. Well, clearly, Peter Parker caught the virus, survived it, and is now a mutant. Ruben, was that bold assumption correct?
You were correct. Yes.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't. I was dead wrong. At least as I read this book, it's not explained super clearly. What I think is going on, we're told that the residual radioactivity in Peter's cells, from that spider bite, of course, makes the virus work a little bit slower on him. Every book, the virus works a little different.
Okay.
And he says if a little bit of radioactivity makes the virus a little bit slow, well, it stands to reason that a lot of radioactivity will make the virus a lot slow.
So you think he's just mutated himself? Is that what's going on?
I don't know if the word mutated even follows. We know he's getting periodic radiation treatments to allow himself to operate and save himself from the virus. And hey kids, don't try this at home. I'm going to irradiate myself to protect myself from the virus that's going around. Mm-hmm. Don't do that. It's a bad idea. But yeah, he's getting these radiation treatments from Cecilia Reyes. Nice to see her. And I guess that's where the extra arms are coming from the radioactivity, maybe the radioactivity interacting with the spider bite radioactivity. but he's not a mutant in the sense of having the X gene, and he hasn't gone through having the virus and is now safe from it. He's still in danger of the virus, but the radioactivity is keeping him safe-ish for the moment. Although it's given him, besides the extra arms, some really unpleasant radiation sickness kind of side effects. At least that's what I got from this. It's not incredibly clear. Another odd concept that's only in this book is the idea that, at least here in New York City, mutants are divided into an upper class who live in an area called High Side and an underclass of Lowlocks, they're not called Morlocks, called Lowlocks, who live in Lowtown. I'm not sure, but maybe the Lowlocks are the humans who became mutants because of the virus, and maybe the High Siders are the old style born with the X gene mutants. Did you get that idea? Do you have any better clue as to who these groups are or why they're separate?
It seems to me more along the lines of whether or not you're 100% bought into Doug Ramsey's group, and you're a low lock if you're living here, but you're not on board with the Revelation territories.
Okay. Could be. It could be the other way around, that if you are a low lock, then kind of by definition, you're not going to be so happy with the situation because you are the underclass. It could be just what your powers are. I really would like to see this explained a little more. But the idea of having these two levels of mutants doesn't really seem to fit in with what Doug is going for, right? He's all about just mutants are the best. We should protect all mutants. So this also feels like a separate thing that doesn't really hook up so well with the main story. But, maybe this is New York City. Maybe things just work differently here. Maybe Doug's not really not really paying attention to what's happening. So, yeah, one more thing that makes this story feel kind of like its own what-if thing, and so many what-if stories have, the upper class, the lower class, the hero has to help the lower class overthrow the upper class. Seen it a million times. Let's get to the actual plot. Joe Kelly writes this as a classic 3-scene kind of an issue. We get a cold open action scene, we get a middle bit full of exposition, a little bit of character work, and we close on another action scene with a shocking reveal ending. Makes us wonder what's going to happen next. So the opening action scene is Spidey rescuing a low-lock mutant rabble-rouser named Fuse. Spidey knows this Fuse guy, seems generally on his side, but thinks that this particular action Fuse is doing is kind of dumb. Fuse throws fire around, destroys a building, and catches the attention of the cops, who are all mutants, of course, because we're in the Revelation territories. And we will see these exact same mutant cops again later. Later on, we'll be told that Fuse was taking action to allow antibiotics and other meds to get to Dr. Reyes' clinic in Lowtown. I don't see in the action scene how anything he's doing actually makes that happen, but maybe that happened off-panel before the book started, and we're just seeing the aftermath. It does feel like they're just kind of adding that detail in to make Fuse seem more like a hero, less like a dumbass. But Spidey swings in, grabs the dumbass, has the dumbass create a smoke screen, and they both swing away to the clinic. End of the opening action scene, which action-wise was a pretty good scene. Sets up the context, sets up the villains for later, really well drawn by Kev Walker. Spidey's webs look goopier than usual. I'm not sure if that's just an art choice or if we're supposed to say, this is Spidey doing things differently. His extra arms are shown to be useful. For instance, Fuse gets tethered to those arms via web so that Spidey can use both his regular arms to do the web swinging. That was kind of cool. So what did you think of this opening action bit here in this new world? Did it make you feel like Spidey's part of the main story, or does this feel kind of like its own separate thing?
I don't think this is central to the Age of Revelation storyline, but it felt close enough. Nothing in here to me actually stood out as like, this is, a different Marvel office that doesn't really know what the rules of the engagement are. And since it's not happening in Philadelphia, I was okay with this idea of the bifurcated kind of class system. I think what's going on here seems a bit more like what Apocalypse would want, right? Where you have the most...
I can see that, yeah.
Survival of the fittest, the most effective mutants rising to the top.
Again, depending on exactly how these two groups came to be. I'm still not super clear on that.
Yeah. I mean, this is the first issue. Maybe by the end I'll be like, okay, this group didn't really know that, they weren't kept in the loop with the other X-Writers, but I was okay with this being a slightly different status quo.
Oh, by the way, I've got some definite leaf blower action going on outside my window, so apologies for any of that noise. Sorry, Jim. Sorry, I can't help it. I'll have the window closed. So now we go back to the clinic for some exposition and some explanation of what's going on. This is where we learn the high side, low town stuff and the radioactive backstory that I put at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
We also learn that in this timeline, Spidey and Dr. Reyes are a romantic item.
Yeah, that surprised me.
Not for nothing, but it seems like Nick Noe will hook Peter Parker up with any female character not named MJ. Right? It's just it almost seems like he's just, twisting the knife in the Spidey MJ fans one more time. Give him one more girlfriend who's not the one everybody wants.
I gotta say, Dr. Reyes is pretty open-minded here. She's good for her that she can see the good within his soul, because he's kind of a freak with like spikes and arms and gills in his neck. I mean, he's a freaky looking dude right now.
Yeah, he's got these. What are those kind of green circles on his chest? Do we know? Is that part of like protecting him from radiation? Is that biological? I don't even know. But he definitely looks super freaky. Mm-hmm. But they've had 10 years to have this relationship develop, so we can certainly say that they would have been together for a while.
Yeah,
and it's nice to see her in a more serious story, because she was stuck in that god awful X Factor book.
X Factor, yeah.
So this is not the X Factor, all about the jokes. Okay, as her story there was about a romantic relationship as well, but this is definitely more of a serious Dr. Reyes trying to help out people. This scene ends with an alarm that tells Peter that there are intruders, not here, but at somewhere they call the other lab. There are 5 biosigns there. Peter is still weak from this latest radiation treatment, but he's Spider-Man, so he swings off to investigate. And we'll see that he's mostly concerned for the well-being of those people who are breaking into that lab area. We switch perspective. It's time for that third and final scene. And now we're following the 4 people breaking into the other lab. Turns out these 4 people are the 4 cops from the opening scene. What a coincidence. They call themselves Marauders because that's an X-Men word. And they're after whatever treasures Mr. Sinister might have left behind here in this hidden lab. I'm sure your ears perked up when you saw the name Mr. Sinister, right, Ruben?
Yeah.
Would be
and
great.
I like the idea of people if you get information about Mr. Sinister having a lab, I could see you wanting to go there, especially if supplies are kind of scarce.
Right. We don't know what kind of group these people are connected to, what their motivation really is, but they're basically just generally up to no good, violent cops working for the, fascist regime.
Mm-hmm.
And this seems to be kind of on the side, but whatever they're doing on the side also doesn't seem very good. But hey, there's only 4 people breaking in, and it was all about, definitely called out 5 biosigns. So that's hinting to us, hey, there's somebody else inside this lab who's alive. Mm-hmm. I thought it was a cool, subtle way to do that without bonking us over the head.
Yeah.
So Spidey swings in, tries to warn the 4 thieves away. Again, much more concerned to get them out of there for their own safety than trying to punish them for breaking in.
Yeah.
There's a fight. Cecilia Reyes is there, and we get reminded that she has kind of Sue Storm-esque shielding powers. The electricity gets cut off, and that allows a truly disgusting, ravenous beast to swoop in and kill and presumably eat all 4 of those intruders. So those 4 are not the big bads we thought they might be, because they're all being eaten.
Yeah.
The last page of the issue reveals who this beast is, who that 5th biosign truly is. And Ruben, who is this horrible, ugly, ravenous creature?
I don't see. This is the same character, right? Nothing's changed in this timeline. It's Aunt May.
It's Aunt May, yeah. So she's been, again, we're not told any specifics, but she's been kind of sealed away in some sort of containment unit, back to tanks, like you're going to be on a generation ship, kind of frozen. We don't know. Yeah. Then when the power was cut off, she got let loose, and I guess she's a mutant now. Yeah. And this awful, ravenous, hungry beast is that.
Yep.
She doesn't seem to have any memory of what she just did. She thinks she was just taking a nap. So clearly we'll be learning more about this next time.
Yeah, definitely. So, and she kind of comes out of a diamond, so I also wondered, is this the X-Virus, or did Sinister do something to her?
Or maybe it's just Sinister's kind of stasis technology that they're making use of.
Yeah.
Could be. So I thought it was a pretty decent issue. Yeah, I've been quibbling about things, complaining about stuff, kind of what I do. But yeah, I'm not going to get too worked up about this feeling different from the other books. It should be a fun enough 3-issue story. And again, I think it's probably a better Spider-Man story, at least so far, than what's currently going on over in Amazing Spider-Man. So if you're over there and you're not liking that story, yeah, it's the same writer, but it's kind of a more fun, it's only going to be 3 issues. So whatever he's going to tell, he's got to tell quickly. So it's not going to be strung out like some other stories. So
I mean, he came
consider
across
this
as
a
very
what if.
heroic. I mean,
Yeah.
I was warned off by Matt and Jim not to check out ASM, but after reading this, I was like, oh, this is actually a pretty cool Peter Parker. So I was, as like a not connected Spider-Man fan, an off and on occasional reader of Spider-Man stories, I thought this was a good one. And there were like even just weird art choices that I thought were kind of cool. Like you pointed out the weird chest globes in his body, but like when he's wearing the suit, those chest globes form like the thorax and abdomen of the spider, which I thought was pretty neat.
The character designs are definitely cool for everybody involved. Even those kind of disposable cops, they get their own kind of neat looks. Kev Walker seems to be doing almost a Romita Jr. inspired style. Just the shape of the heads and things kind of remind me of JRJR. Mm-hmm. Not as extreme, at least not like the current John Romita Jr., who's super, super stylized. A little more halfway between standard Marvel house style and Romita. Peter Parker doesn't look quite like I want Peter Parker to look. It is 10 years in the future, so I can say okay to that. Dr. Reyes looks pretty much the same age we always see her, so maybe she just, ages really well, or maybe that's part of her mutant power. Who the hell knows? Mm-hmm. But yeah, nice to see her here. I think it's a pretty good story. I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10. Not amazing, but a pretty good Spidey what-if story. How about you?
Yeah, I'm going to join you. That's exactly the score I've written down. I thought it was fun, and we'll see. Like, I feel like this is one you could probably skip if you're just trying to stick to like the core storyline, but I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I think it's more of a Spider-Man what-if story than it is an Age of Revelation story. But that's okay. We got so many books. We have 16 3-issue miniseries going on. So if one of them is just kind of a wacky Spider-Man story, I think there's room for that.
Yep.
All right, moving on to our final issue of the week, which is The Last Wolverine, #1 of 3, written by Saladin Ahmed, art by Edgar Salazar, colors by Carlos Lopez, letters by Corey Pettit. And Ruben, how about you tell us about what might be my favorite Saladin Ahmed issue ever?
Yeah, it's it's kind of a funny story. It's like super upbeat and positive, but the storyline itself is a little down. But it plays with some stuff that I did not expect to get played with. So, yeah, don't go there, man.
I did love that contrast, that it has this super upbeat kind of early Bronze Age 1970s bright primary color character in the middle trying to be that kind of upbeat superhero, but acting in this morally gray, complicated world that it's in. I thought that contrast was really well done.
Yeah. So this story takes place in Vancouver, and it's, I guess, in the current like contemporary timeline for the Age of Revelation. Mm-hmm. So it's X years later, not 2 years or 3 years into the Age of Revelation. And we start out with Leonard, who was Kid Wendigo. I guess I don't know. I don't exactly remember how he left him in the Wolverine story, but I think.
Let me remind you.
Yeah,
he was cured. He was
okay. Was he?
He was fully cured. It had to do with, it was that issue number 400, the big anniversary issue, and he kind of sacrificed himself to rescue Logan from an acid trap made by Arcade. Remember that wacky Arcade story?
Oh,
and
yeah, that's
somehow
right.
That sacrifice transformed him back into a real boy, a regular kid. Yeah. So how he came back to be in this Wendigo form, we don't know.
Yeah,
definitely, there's a big jump there.
Yeah, well, so he's Wendigo again, but now he's wearing the yellow and blue Wolverine costume, and
he's calling himself the Wonderful Wolverine, which is a very 70s kind of a title. And just the pose he strikes and the bright colors and the way the kids, he looks like he's going to give the kids Twinkies and Hostess fruit pies. It has that real feel to it, which I love.
Yeah. So there's a building in Vancouver that's burning to the ground, and he runs in and rescues these 2 kids that were, I guess, trapped in the fire, like very traditional superhero kind of action. And he escapes from the building with the kids and gets the kids over to the fire department, and they seem to love him also. So much so that they invite him out to drink.
Yeah, first the cop needs to kind of verify that he is old enough to drink because he acts like such a little kid.
Yes, I laughed at that scene. Yep.
And he does seem to be like this town's like Vancouver, right? He's like Vancouver's own superhero.
Yes.
in a very traditional comic book, every city has its own superhero, almost like a DC kind of a way, right? Like Central City has the Flash, and this city has those people, and he is Vancouver's superhero.
Yeah, and they very much seem to like him. And during this point in time, we get the kind of narration that fills in like how did we get here, or like what's happened. Not how he transformed back into Wendigo, but how did he become Wolverine, having been Wendigo?
Yeah, he even tells the kids like a cleaned up version of his origin story.
Yeah,
right. He says, "Oh, he caught the Wendigo curse." Doesn't mention that it was because of cannibalism. Right. He says, "Oh, Logan helped me and taught me how to be a superhero." Doesn't mention that he was turned back into a human. Yeah. And then he says that once he was old enough, he used his powers to follow in Logan's footsteps, and said that he and Logan even fought side by side for a while.
Yep.
But then he's definitely, again, trying to be this positive, simple, straightforward superhero, and he doesn't want to tell the kids all the kind of nasty, dirty bits that happened.
Yep. So the firefighters say, "Hey, thanks, you saved the kids. You want to get a beer?" And he's saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm late for dinner. I got to get out of here." So he goes Wendigoing off. I don't know exactly how he travels.
Wendigoing, Wendigone. He's bounding across the rooftops.
Yeah.
Almost like a cross between Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah. Yeah. So he runs across town and he goes to dinner, and it's Nightcrawler, who I've been asking about, like, where is he? Except it's not Blue Nightcrawler. He's now like just a human.
This is a cursed really image. This is a wacky page, because we see Nightcrawler open the door to his house to welcome Kid Wendigo. He says, he speaks German, which makes us, again, making us know this really is Kurt. He's wearing his old X-Men uniform, but he's got a regular, white German guy face. He's got kind of Reed Richards hair. He's holding his hands up, and he's got 5 fingers on each hand. Yeah, we don't see his feet, but I'm guessing those are normal feet too. So just seeing that makes me go, "Wow, that's wacky stuff. That's kind of uncomfortable."
Yeah. Yep. So we learned he's going to dinner with Kurt, and Kurt is now married with a kid.
Who is he married to, Ruben?
He's hooked up with Mackenzie Denier, that character we saw in Uncanny X-Men. Who
I'm going to take
you were kind of predicting.
Yes,
you were predicting that they were going to end up in a relationship, and I didn't think that was the direction the story was going. But here we are. They got married.
Yeah, they're married. They have a daughter named Freda, who looks pretty close to 10 years old, not much younger than 10. So things must have happened pretty quickly in the timeline. We don't see her existing kid, who could be off. Will be late teens or 20s by now. So
the one that Kurt rescued from the bus. That was going to run the kid over.
Stuff.
Yeah, maybe just got out of the house. So that was interesting. And they use this as like a backdrop to tell the rest of the story, where we learned that basically Leonard and Wolverine were kind of a team doing superhero stuff during the Age of Revelation. And then at some point, Logan got whammied with Revelation, the voice of God power, turn him into like the executioner for Doug that he is now. And Leonard tried to confront him and, challenged him, like, "What's going on? You don't seem your normal self." And
again,
Wolverine attacked him.
The very simple, you can overcome this. I can help you overcome this. I hear you're killing people for Doug. That can't be really you. And Logan just attacks him, slashes him, stabs him right through the gut, and tosses him off the roof, which is the second time that's happening this week. No ghost coming in to save Kid Wendigo, but he's Kid Wendigo, so he can take a fall.
Yeah. So then he leaves, and then he talks about how he had to get out of the Revelation territories. One, because of the betrayal, but also because the X-Virus was kind of starting to make him feel like the lust for human flesh again.
Yeah, once again, the X-Virus is kind of shifting based on the needs of the individual book. Yeah. Because we've seen that even really strong superheroes who aren't mutants can die from this virus really quick. Like the Fantastic Four are all dead.
Yeah.
They had no immunity to this. But somehow Kid Wendigo, the curse, I guess, is protecting him.
That's what I'm going to say. It's the Wendigo curse, which makes you immortal. So I'm fine with the X-Virus not being able to kill him. But I don't have a problem with like the X-Virus interacting with the Wendigo curse to have like wacky effects.
I'm curious where this is, because as far as we're just shown that he's now, it's years ago. They're on the top of a tall building. I don't recognize this as any particular city. It is definitely Revelation territory. We see all.
It's definitely Philadelphia. I looked it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's that building with the I don't know what that style is, but Art Deco or something.
All right.
Is like in Philadelphia.
Because
they should have just put a label there.
I thought that the rules were that if the Wendigo leaves Canada, then the Wendigo powers and curse also go away. I guess the Wendigo curse has kind of shifted around over the years in Marvel. So I was trying to come up with a way that this could be in
somewhere
parts
in Canada.
of Canada that the Revelation virus or the X virus had gotten to, but it's not really that far into Canada, even X years from now. So I was trying to find a way, like when would it have reached Toronto? But if it's Philadelphia, then
it's definitely Philadelphia.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyways, So he tells that sad story, and then he gets an alert on his risk communicator saying somebody's broken into your apartment. So
Very much like Radioactive Spider-Man, right? That we go to our last scene because of an alarm saying there's somebody breaking in somewhere. Yeah. Coincidence.
Yeah. So he gets into his apartment and says, "Hey, mystery criminal, you're going to be in, in for some hurting. Like you don't know whose apartment you broke into."
Again, with very cliche, I'm an old-fashioned superhero kind of dialogue.
Yeah. And we see who it is. It's Heather McNeil Hudson in her like a very rough and tumble looking version of her Vindicator outfit.
Yeah, with an eye patch, like she's had a shield or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's basically saying like, "Hey, I finally found a way to help them to save Wolverine, to save my husband," which is a very ambiguous statement because does that mean that she married Logan? Or does that mean like her husband Guardian and also Logan? Like very unclear, like if she's talking about saving two people or just in this story, did she get divorced from James Hudson?
I think they were split up already.
Okay.
They've kind of gone back and forth. I mean, he always still cares about her, but I think they're officially split up. Last time we saw her,
she was Nemesis, right? Yeah.
She was using that other, what was the name of the power? The character she
Nemesis.
was? Nemesis, right. And she was using that magical teleportation kind of power. She overused it to save people. She ended up in a coma.
It was the sword.
The sword. Right.
Yeah, the sword is like a vampiric sword. It gives you all these crazy powers, but you have to like kill people with it. Otherwise, it drains your life force.
Right.
So that's what had happened. It had drained her life force because she wasn't going to go out and murder some people.
So she was in the custody of the Canadian government, and a lot of other Alpha Flight members were as well, except the ones who had gotten away into space. Last time we saw her, so this is 10 years later, and she's gone through some rough stuff. I think if we look back at the scene in Kurt's house, we're shown kind of in the foreground a photograph. And on one side, we see Kurt still looking blue with Mackenzie. And on the other side of that photo, it's definitely Wolverine with some lady. And it's small, so we can't see who it is exactly. But that could be Heather in that photo.
Oh, interesting.
So that could be a sign that, they were a couple at that point. So, yeah, I'm thinking that she and Logan are a couple now, and she's found some way to potentially break him away from Doug's influence, which is pretty neat. So this book could be important to the main story, or it could be a side thing. We've seen Logan, pop up in a couple different books, right? He's been in the background in, in the Gabby and Laura Wolverine. He's been in the main X-Men book when he was chasing down Cyclops and company. So he's definitely one of the main actors in this whole story. So if this book finds a way to peel him off of Doug, this could be important as well as being, again, a really well-told story, I think.
Yep, I was really happy with this one.
Okay, so we have any other details
not typically
to talk about?
No, I think that's the main story. Not the biggest Wolverine fan, but I thought this was done well. And so I'll give this one another 7.5.
Wow, I liked it a lot more than that. I think this is definitely the best Solid Ahmed story I've read, at least since his original. I think he did a Black Bolt book early on that I really liked. This is definitely the best of his Wolverine writing to me. And I just love this character of Kid Wolverine. I love the contrast of his golly gee Willikers attitude, trying to act in this world that definitely wants to be a messier, more tawdry story. And I just think that's a really great way to tell the story. I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. This is clearly my favorite book of the week. So I guess I'm going out on a limb here. I hope the next 2 issues are as good as this one and still make me happy to read it every time, but I guess we'll wait and see.
It's definitely in the fun vein of comics. If you're a fan of like classic superhero stuff, you'll probably get a big smile out of this one.
Yeah, Jim's probably going to say that, he also liked Metamorpho, so what the hell does he know? It's not like Metamorpho in the sense of being satirical and making fun of those old comics, but it does capture some of that spirit that I really like and that we don't get a lot of, especially in modern X comics. So I'm enjoying that spirit here. Okay, that was the last book we had to talk about this week. A pretty damn good week for the X books, Ruben. Let's hope our luck holds out. So let's see what's coming out next week on October 29th, right before Halloween. Well, these are the final set of #1 issues connected to this event. We have Expatriate X-Men #1, written by Eve Ewing. So the book featuring Bronze, Melee, and Ruben, the most important mutant in all of mutantdom, in all of Marvel Comics, Ms. Marvel.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The cover also shows Colossus and Mystique.
Perfect, yeah.
Curious to see what they're doing here. I can't see Mystique taking orders from Kamala Khan. I have to wait and see how that works.
Oh, God, as soon as you said that. So Kamala Khan is going to be the keeper of the truth.
Another book is X-Vengers #1, written by your favorite and mine, Jason Liu. This is Danny Moonstar, Hawkeye, who has 3 extra arms.
It's like so convoluted, I can't even explain it.
We have Cannonball, we have Vision, got some version of Giant Man.
He had a big one.
And a lady with swirling blue energy all around her who the solicit is calling Water Widow. Wacky team.
Mystery within a mystery.
Next we have Cloak or Dagger, written by Justina Ireland. Looks like they're doing a Marvel and Rick Jones thing where they can't be in the same place at the same time. They have to switch locations with each other.
I'm mostly down on this.
The solicit does reference how popular these two are in that Marvel Rivals game that I refuse to learn anything about.
Just a cash grab.
I guess this might be Marvel Rivals having an influence on the comics and bringing up these characters.
Just a cash grab.
And finally, we have Undeadpool, written by Tim Seeley. Deadpool always wants to be considered a mutant, and I guess now he is. Seems to not like it so much, at least based on the image on the front cover.
We'll see.
None of those feel super important to the main Age Revelation story, but
I feel like this is one you could probably skip if you're just trying to stick to like the core storyline.
Trying to stay optimistic here, Ruben.
No reason.
Now, what can our wonderful listeners do to keep themselves optimistic until our next podcast arrives in their ears?
Read more X-Men comics.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Kneel before Zod.